Brady invited me to talk to you guys today about my amazing journey through the world of online dating. But before I do that, I'm going to show you guys a couple things about who I am, and maybe that will give you some insight into how I ended up doing the project that I'm going to show you. I'm a composer and visual artist. I spend a lot of time playing on stage with things that look like this. This is listening to me, right? Right? And what I do is I work a lot with information and try to use it to make basically portraits. And so I'll give you a couple examples. For the last bunch of years, I've been working on what you could maybe think of as American portraiture. But it's portraiture through our media, through our images and sounds and films and words. And so this is some oldie but goodie pieces of mine. This is a piece called Billboard, where I took every #1 song on the Billboard pop chart and sped it up to last for 1 second for every week it was at #1. So you can hear the whole history of the American pop chart in 37 minutes. Right? I have another piece called Academy that I did for the Sundance Film Festival in 2007, which is every Academy Award Best Picture in 1 minute. And then to round out the thing, I have, all the Playboy Playmates of the month, right? And so what you get is you get this idea of who we are as Americans, looking through our lists, looking through the things we value, through the things that are important to us, through the cultural icons of our age, right? So you can, in 50 seconds, see all the Playmates of the month. In 37 minutes, you can hear all our #1 songs. And these are really your own personal canon, right? If you grew up listening to pop radio, you will sit there and go, oh, I lost my virginity right there, right? You have part of this memorized. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I've used it to engage a couple other levels of portraiture. This is a portrait I made of Britney Spears, where I taught the computer to recognize her eyes and lock them in the frame. So instead of a church icon, you have a pop icon, right? This sits on a wall in a picture frame. But the last couple things I've been doing are mostly to do with text. And so I'm going to sort of start with like the precursor to it. So in 2008, I got commissioned by the Democratic National Convention to do a piece for the DNC in Denver. And what they did was they gave me kind of carte blanche to make a big public sculpture. And so what I did was I took all the State of the Union addresses of every president, from George Washington to George W. Bush, and made eye charts out of them. So these are the top 66 words. Right? So like George Washington's eye chart, right? His #1 word is gentleman, right? George Bush is terror. Right? You can sort of imagine these, right? Ronald Reagan is deficits, right? Richard Nixon is truly, right? You can guess, you can probably guess some of them if you sort of look around. Abraham Lincoln is emancipation, right? Bill Clinton spent most of the time he was president talking about the century in which he would no longer be president, right? So what you do with this is you make a big monumental sculpture, right? You make light boxes. They're to scale, so if you stand 20 feet back and you can read between these lines, you have 20/20 vision. And we've installed them all over the place. I've been touring for about 4 years. This is where they were during the election at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. And it's an interesting thing because we're accustomed now to data visualization as just sort of a normal thing in our everyday web browsing life and experience, right? So these really aren't that different from tag clouds, right? Except that you don't typically fabricate tag clouds into 4 tons of steel and stick them into a park. That's not a normal thing to do. So what I'm interested in is sort of trying to get, by creating physical objects out of these things, getting people to sort of engage in conversations where they can look at everything as a sort of gestalt experience and not something that they just have as a quick sort of impact on a website. So that's sort of where that came from. While I was working on this project, I decided I wanted to do a sequel. And so I'm going to back up a bit. When I started working on this project, I found myself single. And so I decided I wanted to try doing online dating. And so online dating is this kind of crazy thing, right? And I'm not an expert on it, but I'll explain what I did. I didn't have a lot of luck with it at first, and I thought at first that maybe it was my fault and something was wrong with the way I was writing my profile, so I started obsessing over that. Then I started thinking, well, maybe it's a service I'm using, so I started joining more and more services. And then I started getting, into the idea of, wait a minute, maybe I'm being too narrow in how I'm like thinking about this. Maybe I should join ones for like people who really, it's a very different kind of thing. I mean, whatever. I'm kind of, I'm pretty like ecumenical in my, right? So I joined 21 different online dating services, and I joined them as a man and a woman. And when possible, as a straight man, a straight woman, and a gay woman. And then I thought to myself, well, why limit it to that? Like, why wouldn't I also be willing to move across the country? So I joined them as those 4 people in every zip code in the United States. And because I was interested in trying to, I was trying to make this as efficient as possible, an experience. What I did was I would do this, and then I would download everybody's profile who I matched with on all these sites with all these profiles, and I ended up with a hard drive with 19 million single Americans dating profiles on a hard disk, which is about 20% of the adult population in the United States. And I sorted them by zip code. So I can tell you how many people in your zip code are shy, right? And I can tell you how many people are looking for someone who's fun. So let's look at some national maps. Here are all the funny people. This is a chloropleth. So what this means is a lighter color is a more prevalent metric. So the way it works is it's like a red state, blue state map, but women are red and men are blue. So you can find out that there aren't very many funny people in Nebraska, right? These are where all the lonely people are. These are where all the shy people are. Those to some degree correlate. This is where all the kinky people are. It's interesting that there are lots of kinky women in Alaska and lots of kinky men in southern New Mexico. Along the way, while I was working on all this stuff, I found out that men in the eastern half of Long Island are way more interested in being spanked than men in the western half of Long Island. I think Congress needs to know this information. I think it's vital to our national security. So what I did was I created a bunch of maps. And the way the maps work is they're an entire atlas of the United States where I replaced all of the words of the cities with the word used by most people in that city, right? So here we have the capital of Alaska being ego. Some fun ones, just as a quick tour around the thing. This is what the Puget Sound area sort of looks like. We've got words like heartbreak and cigarette and pretty. Right? If we sort of move down, some of these you can completely guess, right? So you've got, the sort of Bay Area. You got gay and dress and energy and lover, and Santa Cruz is liberal. And you move down to Los Angeles, you get acting, right? It's the #1 word. New York City's #1 word is now. As in, I want it now, or perhaps now I'm working as a waiter. One of the things that's really interesting about this piece that came out, though, is some of the more sort of unusual words like Syracuse, New York, right? It's dinosaur because of dinosaur barbecue. Hell's Angels barbecue joint up in Syracuse where you would take somebody on a date. I also went down to the city level on a number of these maps. So this is New York City at the zip code. If you live in the sort of Williamsburg, Greenpoint area, you may recognize some of these words. So the idea is to create an atlas of the United States that's a critique of the census, right? The real census, which was also done in 2010 when I pulled this data, was based around a very specific metric of who we are, sort of looking at household income and what kind of jobs we have. I wanted to make one about, who we are in terms of wanting to be loved, right? Online dating is a really interesting thing because you basically write 2 pieces of prose. You write about you and you write about the person you want to be with. The one you write about, when you write about you, you lie. And in the other one, you tell the truth, right? So it's a very interesting rhetorical thing. And I thought it would be interesting to imagine a world in which we could, gerrymander our lives based on romance and who we want to be with. So that's sort of the project. This is, just to keep you going for the end. These are about 2 million of the single people. This is a good game of Russian roulette, right? Nah, I don't know. Nah, definitely not. Anyway, the project is called The More Perfect Union. If you're interested in checking it out, the website is perfect.lukedubois.com. Thank you for your time.